He knocked me over. I landed on the dog bowl.
This One's Wife. Brooke Shields highlights Meghan's flaws. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Another famous person speaks out against this one's wife. In the past, nobody did so, but increasingly people have felt emboldened or encouraged to observe about the very many flaws that exist in relation to this one's wife. Once again, give the narcissist enough rope and they'll hang themselves. Her behaviours come to be noticed, are seen inaccurate, and people then start to talk about them. And for an overexposed individual such as this one's wife, all the evidence is there to see her behaviours, and she then cops yet more criticism. Naturally, the criticism is challenge fuel. She's being spoken about, which gives her fuel, but it's a threat to her control because it's critical. And this one's wife believes that she is above criticism. But what has happened? Well, according to Juliet Conway and Eleanor Dye, writing in the Daily Mail, Brooke Shields has revealed she interrupted this one's wife live on stage in front of thousands of people because she says the Duchess of Sussex was being too precious in her speech about gender equality. Now, the narcissist hates to be interrupted. This is because in the world of the narcissist and driven by their sense of entitlement, the narcissist speaks and you, the proles, the peasants, the peons, you have to listen. This one's wife loves nothing more than grasping a phallic-shaped microphone. It feels so natural and is a reminder of so many of the similar-shaped things that she's grasped in the past, that she loves nothing more than spouting her beige word salad and fridge magnet platitudes as glass eyes are sent to sleep. She believes that everything that she says is fascinating. And if you interrupt her, that not only is deemed rude, but naturally it is a threat to her control. You may recall the instance when her own mother interrupted her at the Grenfell event many years ago, and in that instance we saw the immediate response of her heated, ignited fury as she glared at her mother. The jaw jutted, the death stare appeared. Her facade management quickly doused the flames to ensure that she didn't grab her mother by the neck and shake her, saying, "Who the fuck do you think you are interrupting me, biatch?" Similarly, in this instance of when Brooke Shields interrupted her, she didn't jump up and say, "Fuck you, motherfucker," and run across the stage and headbutt Brooke Shields. Her facade management kept her intact so that she didn't expose the fury that will have been churning below. She hates to be interrupted because her narcissism tells her everybody should be listening to you. Everybody should stay silent where you're talking. Everybody's attention should be on you because that provides her with the fuel that she requires. The 60-year-old Hollywood actress, Shields, shared the anecdote on the latest episode of India Hicks' podcast. Brooke was discussing the International Women's Day panel in Austin, Texas from March 2024, see Parts Passim, where she had been joined by this one's wife on stage. When the discussion began and the former Suits star started answering Katie's opening question, Brooke said the tone quickly became overly serious. Katie asked the first question to this one's wife and talks about how at a young age she was already advocating for women, etc., etc., Brooke explained. This one's wife starts telling a story about how when she was 11, and she keeps saying, well, when I was 11, I saw this commercial, and they were talking about washing dishes, and only soap for washing dishes was for women. And she said, I didn't think only women washed dishes. It wasn't fair. So I wrote to the company. And when I was 11, I wrote my first letter. And when I was 11, and she kept saying she was 11. She wrote to the company. They changed the text. They changed the commercial. This is an instance of this one's wife bringing up the past, although it's revised because it was a class project, not her singular act, And she fails to recognise that, one, it's boring because we've heard it before. Two, it's not entirely accurate because what actually occurred has been proven. Third, she's failing to read the room. And that's something that she does regularly. And I'll be talking about that more in a separate video, so watch out for that. The fact is that, once again, this one's wife starts with another of her boring diatribes, talking about herself, banging on about when she was 11, as people collectively groan. And Brooke Shields simply thought, we don't need to hear this. Brooke said she couldn't resist breaking the tension in the room and the earnestness of this one's wife's response. Yet again, this one's wife layers on the earnestness because she doesn't actually understand how she should behave, because she has no emotional empathy. Instead, what she does is, governed by her narcissism, creates an approximation of how she believes she ought to behave. And this is why she's so over the top with things, laughing when there's no need to laugh, cooing and purring in a way which is entirely inappropriate. The expansive gestures with the oversized man hands as she cuts the air like a pissed-up ninja. The staring, the breathy tones, the exaggeration, the weird delivery, the faux compassion. All of these things are an attempt by her narcissism to get empathy right, and it misfires. Accordingly, her cognitive empathy is not as honed as it ought to be. She attempts to mimic and gets it somewhat wrong. And this has happened again in this instance, where she is overly earnest. And accordingly, Brooke Shields states, "Excuse me, I'm so sorry, I've got to interrupt you there for 1 minute. I was trying not to be rude, but I wanted to be funny because it was so serious. I just want to give everybody here a context as to how we're different," Brooke told the audience. "I said, well, when I was 11, I was playing a prostitute. The place went insane, and then luckily, it was more relaxed after that." The comment was a reference to Brooke's breakout role as a child star in the controversial 1978 film Pretty Baby, in which she played a child sex worker, a role that sparked debate at the time and has remained the subject of intense scrutiny in the decades since. In Austin, the moment broke the ice as the crowd broke out into laughter. "I was like, oh, I hope she doesn't think I'm rude. I'm not being rude," Brooke added. Reflecting on the exchange, Brooke added, "It was just too precious. And I was like, they're not going to want to sit here for 45 minutes and listen to anybody be precious or serious." Despite the crowd's response, Brooke acknowledged that the moment might not have gone down quite so well with this one's wife herself. This was in front of thousands of people. I mean, it was crazy, she said. And then afterwards, she was kind of like, oh, okay. And I was like, let's just have some fun with it. Brooke added, "I don't know if you'll have to cut this out." This one's wife had been telling an anecdote she's referred to on many occasions about fighting a sexist Procter & Gamble commercial when she was just 11 years old. And once again, she trots this out, and the article repeats what we've heard so many times, as she has this go-to tale, which, because she doesn't have much to talk about, she commandeers something which was a class project, refines it to make it seem like it was her sole project in order to make her look good, and her narcissism regularly selects this as an example of her supposed feminism and female advocacy because there's a paucity of other information to support that particular complexion that she wants to show the world. On this occasion, Brooke Shields simply thought, oh, for goodness sake, this is way too serious, too earnest, I'm going to interrupt you, and she did. Much to the amusement of those watching, and no doubt the relief of interrupting the earnestness of the very boring and beige this one's wife. She's spoken about it just recently and, of course, gets coverage because it relates to this one's wife, but it again highlights, first of all, the way that this one's wife tries to be something that she's not. It demonstrates the way that she fails to read the room, and it also demonstrates the way that increasingly people are content to speak out against her because they recognise that she's a dull, uninteresting, and ultimately unpleasant individual. The fact that this has been highlighted in a podcast and reported in the world's media again threatens the control that this one's wife needs. She will not like the fact that this is being spoken about. She will not like the fact that she was interrupted has been resurrected. And it amounts to yet more threats to control of this one's wife. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.